bhavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sah viryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. Hari Om. So we are starting with the chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Already I know most of you who are here have attended the 6th chapter also, but we will go into just a kind of overview of what has been happening in the earlier chapters, so that we kind of get a recap of it, and also revisit those concepts which maybe we have forgotten about, or maybe we want to know better, so that we start out this chapter with a fresh perspective, right? So in this chapter, of course, when we are entering into this chapter, we are entering the second shatak. Shatka, as in know here, if we see the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, we can, if we have to section them logically, as how is it done? 6 chapters are taken, right? And if we see the first 6 chapters, that's chapter 1 to 6, the Tatpada Vichara, the Twampada Vichara is taken in this. As in, what are the topics which are covered in this first 6 chapters? The chapter 1 to 6 is more dealing with the individual personality rather than the totality, right? So when we start this inquiry, the inquiry is starting with this individual, who is this jiva, who is me, right? And what is the topics taken? Topic over there will be, who am I? What is my nature? What is my inherent nature, which maybe I am unaware. When we say that, okay, I know myself, but I know myself in a certain manner, right? And what is it that we know ourselves as? We know ourselves with this BMI, that is the conditioning or the upadhi of the body, mind, intellect, or rather if you want to say we have the 3 shariras, right? Sharira traya. So what are the 3 shariras? One is, of course, the physical body, the sthula sharira. Then there is the sukshma sharira, the subtle body, which is made up of the mind and intellect. And of course, there is the ego also there, the ahankara. And there is the karana sharira, or the causal body, which is the seat of all our vasanas, and that which brings in a uniqueness in the texture of my mind, or the way that I think, or I look at this world, not just the world, but look at myself as well as all that I relate to through this body, mind, intellect, right? So that is the perspective that one normally looks at oneself through, that of being this conditioned body or this conditioned being. Conditioned being, that is the one who has these upadhis or conditionings of the emotions that I go through, or the or how I look at myself in a limited perspective of being this body which has a birth and death, which goes through various experiences, which has different relations, and all these relations or all these things and beings that I connect with are connected with my body, right? So as long as I have this existence of this body, till then, I connect with the world through it, right? So that is one perspective of looking at myself as this conditioned personality, and the other is trying to look beyond this conditionings, beyond these upadhis. So who am I without any of this name and form? What is my true identity? And to understand that alone, we go into this inquiry of Tvampada. So that is done through the first 6 chapters. And then the next Shatka, the next 6 chapters, that's chapters 7 to 12, they will deal with the totality aspect of it. So what is the totality or the Tat-pada? It is to do with who is God, what is Bhagwan's nature, and how do I connect with it, as Saguna or as Nirguna. What is the best way for me to know that Bhagwan, and what is the difference between this Saguna and Nirguna, that which has gunas, that which I can relate to as I do with myself, with a name and form, or is that totality, or is that God, or is that creator one who has no name and form, and how do I then connect with that Nirguna, right? So this Saguna Rupa and Nirguna Rupa is what is revealed in the next Shatka, that is chapter 7 to 12. And then you have chapter 13 to 18, which deals with the Asi Pada. So you might ask, but why are you talking of, what are these padas, and how do I connect with? I am not very aware of all this. So if we look at the Upanishad, and the essence of any Upanishad is the Mahavakya. And when we say the Mahavakya, it is that which is revealing the truth, the identity of myself as it actually is, as it is. So when we say this identity revealing statement or that Mahavakya, what is it telling? It is saying that Jiva, that is that Tvampada, that individual that we are looking at, and Ishvara, right? Or that totality that we are observing as this world of names and names of the world of names and forms, which has a creator behind it. So who is that creator, right? So there is the Tvampada, that is the individual, and there is the Tatpada, which is that totality, or that power behind this entire universe, that keeps this universe working, going, right? So this Tvampada and that Tatpada, how are the two one and the same? That is revealed by that Mahavakya, or that which is the truth revealing statement of the Upanishads, which here is taken in for enquiry through the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So this is a rough outline given, When we say identity revealing statement, it means that that which is that Atma, when we inquire into the individual or that individuality, what do we come upon? We say that there is that consciousness which makes this jada or this insentient body, mind, intellect into that which is sentient. So that Atma and that truth which makes this universe work, or that truth which lends life to this entire universe, or that which makes this unmanifest consciousness appear as this world of names and forms, is that Brahma. So that is that Tatpada. That is that Tatpada. So when we are talking of this individual and that totality, then what happens is, you think that this Atma is something different and that Paramatma or that Ishvara is something totally different. These are two different entities. But what the Mahavakya reveals to us is that these two are not two different, but they are one and the same. And that alone is that Advaita, or that which is non-dual. So when we are saying this, that Asipada, that part of the Mahavakya which equates the two, or which says that this Tvam and that Tat are one and the same, that is said to be the Asipada. So if we look at the Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi, right? Tat Tvam Asi. When we look at it, the Tat Pada is talking of that Paramatma, and the Tvam Pada is talking of this individual. And Asi, right? Or that thou art, or that art part of it, is saying that these two, though they might seem to be different, but they are one and the same consciousness. What differentiates them, what makes them appear different, is their conditioning. So without the conditioning, without the upadhi of the individual or that jiva, or that the Ishwaratva of the Ishvara, that which is unmanifest, that reality which is unmanifest, or that reality which is absolute, absolute what? Satchit Ananda, that alone is being revealed in that Asipada. So what are we saying? So we are saying that these 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are in a way sectioned in this manner. The first 6 will inquire into the individuality and talk about who is this individual, what are the conditionings, what are the upadhis that make me feel limited, and how do I overcome these limitations. So that is covered in that first 6 chapters. In the next 6 chapters, chapters 7 to 12, what is revealed is the nature of who God is. Who is God? How do I connect with Him? Be it through upadhis, that is through conditionings, that is the saguna rupa, or should I connect with the nirguna rupa, that which is without any attributes, right? And then what happens then in the chapter, the last Shadka, that is from chapter 13 to 18, is the Asipada. Actually, the Asipada is dealt with, or the Mahavakya part of it is dealt with from chapter 13 to 15. 13, 14, 15 will cover different Mahavakyas. And then you will say, okay, what happens in the next 3 chapters then? In the next 3 chapters, that is chapters 16, 17 and 18, Bhagavan will discuss different topics, different miscellaneous topics which were not covered in the earlier chapters. so that we come to know, we come to know what are the different sadhanas that are required for us to bridge the gap between knowing that reality and being that reality. So for that itself, chapter 16, 17 and 18 will discuss how different values are to be inculcated, and also different other negativities that we should stay away from. So this is dealt with in the Daivi Sampat as well as Asuri Sampat, and then different types of faiths which one has to be aware of, and how one can connect through one's own through one's own personality, or through my existing system, or through my existing way of thinking or my personality. How do I connect with Bhagavan in the right way? What are the improvements that I can bring about in myself through sadhana, swadhyay and seva, right? So if you want to understand how did this all start, so if we see in the first chapter itself, Arjuna had been lamenting in a very non-Kshatriya way, and though he puts down everything very logically, how this war doesn't seem to be fair, and he gives different reasons why he should not be fighting this war, and how he has himself forgotten what is dharma and what is adharma, whether he should fight or whether he should not fight. So he puts down his case to Bhagavan, and he gives up, as though completely crestfallen, as though in today's day and age, how we say, completely depressed and not knowing what to do further. And he literally drops down his weapons mid battlefield, and that's when Bhagavan not only challenges him, or rather his swadharma of being that Kshatriya, he also asks him to get up and rise to the occasion rather than lamenting in this way. And then, of course, being very compassionate, Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjuna what the actual truth of his nature is. And of course, it's through Arjuna that Bhagavan is addressing all of us, right? So what is the message? What is the essential message which is given in this chapter 1 to 6? It is Nanushocanti Panditaha. The wise do not grieve no matter what the situation. Though there might be various happenings in our life, and there might be many reasons why, in a worldly standpoint, we might think that the world is not fair and I'm having a very tough time and there is no other way out for me. Yet Bhagavan says that the one who is wise, that person will know that there never ever is a reason for one to grieve, no matter what the circumstances. So you might wonder, how is there are very many situations, and Bhagavan is so sitting right up there somewhere, and he might be just observing from far, and he might be saying that you can face all kinds of odds, but how do I go through the different life's happenings? So of course, here when Bhagavan is saying this, Nanu Shochanti Panditaha, there is no reason whatsoever for one to grieve. And who knows it? The Panditaha, the one who has realized the truth, that person will be able to live in this wisdom. So you might ask, how is this possible? So then, there are three perspectives that one should know. And to go towards that, why not look at an example? So say suppose you are, there is a very old earthen vase that you are having, like a flower vase that you have, and it looks very beautiful, and maybe it is not earthen, maybe it is, very expensive. So, and maybe it has been in your family for a long time. And what happens? One child comes home, and as he's playing while the elders are going about chattering around, this child somehow accidentally drops that pot, that earthen vase, or that porcelain vase you might call it. It falls and it topples over and it breaks. What is the immediate reaction? Because it is a reaction, right? What will happen? You will immediately say that, oh my God, that pot, it belonged to, so old, it has been with our family and it has been passed on from one to the other. And what has happened? It is gone. It is in seconds that boy just touched it and it fell and it broke. Now, one perspective is to react in this manner, right? But that is the normal way, right? That is the way of the unwise, or rather the otherwise, you might say. But the one who is wise, how will they think? So they might take up 3 perspectives to look at this situation. One perspective is to look at it from the clay perspective, from the clay standpoint. So it was made of clay, and when it broke, what will happen? It will go back to being clay only. So there is no change actually. That which was clay is going to remain clay only, right? And therefore there is no reason to grieve over it, right? Then the other is from the utility perspective. So one might say that, okay, it was there in the house for so long and it served its purpose. Everything has an expiry date. So now it has, served its purpose and it had to go and it has broken up. So that which had to perish, it will perish, right? The pot is broken. What should I do? I should not cry over it, right? No need to cry over spilt milk, right? It is already spilled, right? Then third stance is from a immediate perspective, right? Or rather from the perspective that, okay, what had to happen is done. What next? What should be my immediate action, having taken into account this that has happened? So any situation, right, can be looked at from these 3 perspectives, right? So Bhagavan is actually telling in the second chapter, Bhagavan is telling Arjuna in these 3 standpoints. One is from the perspective of the consciousness. That is from the absolute perspective. From the absolute perspective, when we say everything is that consciousness alone. Everything is, when we say everything is, it means existence alone is. Nothing has any name and form. There is nothing actually to begin with. Everything is that isness alone, that existence alone. So when we say this, there is no birth and death. From which standpoint? From that absolute perspective, or from that consciousness perspective, there never is any name and form, there never is any body, there is never is any world, there alone is that consciousness, right? So what we give reality to is what? Is this ego, which I claim to, say that this is me, that which says that this is me and this is mine, right? So that is that individuality which comes to the surface at all times. And for me, everything starts with me and ends with me, right? In this world, whatever I do, it begins with me and it ends also with me only, right? So there is the ego, right? That ahamta, which also has the various mamatas, right? The things and objects and beings that I connect with, they are all to do with mine, right? So there is the world. And when we say the world, why do we consider the world into this equation? Because without the world, where is my source of joy? So for me, who takes myself to be this body, mind, intellect, right, and claims to each and every action to start with me and end with me, and also that, that me, that is that ego, wants to enjoy or wants to have happiness, have that happiness, or wants to be happy. Where is the joy or that pleasure of the world coming from? It is going to come from the various objects and things in this world or beings in this world, right? When we say this objects and beings, what happens is, through my sense organs, I am going to access this world of senses, right? The world of sense objects, the Vishayas, as we say, right? So one is this perspective, from which when we look from the absolute perspective, there is only consciousness alone. But from this ego perspective, if we look at everything, from the ego perspective, there is only me and there is the world, right? Which is the source of happiness. But again, going back to our absolute perspective, what happens? All this that I give reality to, that is the world of this ego and the world, right? Or rather, this individuality and the world, or this Jiva and Jagat. This Jiva and Jagat, are they real? They are mithya. From which perspective? From that absolute perspective. So there is, so going back to our example which we took of the pot or that vase, right? So that vase which is made of clay, from the perspective of clay, there is no pot. There is only clay. So when we say there is no pot, what is not there? There is no form of the pot, nor is there any name which is called the pot. Okay. So what is there then? That clay alone is, right? So the clay is unaffected by what happens to the name and form of the pot. And so too, when we think of that consciousness, or when we consider that consciousness, then from that consciousness perspective, the world as well as this ahamta or this ego or this ahankara, they have no existence. So any happenings which I connect with this ahankara are no happenings at all when it comes from the perspective of that absolute reality, right? Therefore, from the wise person's perspective, the wise person as in who? The wise person who knows that, that Jiva and Jagat both are mithya. And what is Satya? That Satya is that consciousness alone, right? So that wise person who has come to know that reality as his own true self, for that person there is never ever any reason to grieve. From which perspective? From that absolute perspective. Then further, from the second perspective, what did we say? We said, from the utility perspective. So we said that, that pot, it had its lifetime, it served its purpose, now it was time for it to go, and it is gone, right? So therefore, in the chapter 2, 16th verse, Bhagavan says, Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satah. That which is real will never perish, right? And that which is unreal will never be born. Is never born. Okay, so that which is real will never perish, and that which was unreal never had any birth itself, right? So one who has understood this as the reality, that person is tattva darshibhihi. That person has the clear outlook at what that reality is. So having understood the concept of what is Atma for the first time, Arjuna, or rather any of us, might be a little bit boggled and might say like, okay, I think this is all going above the head. Why is Bhagavan talking of this? Didn't Arjuna ask him for a solution, for what is dharma and adharma, or rather he is asking one straight question, whether he should fight or not fight. So why is Bhagavan telling all this? So Bhagavan also, understanding the look on Arjuna's face, Bhagavan says, okay, fine. Even if you don't understand what this consciousness is, or don't understand this absolute perspective, to as a jiva, as what you take yourself to be right now, right? Bhagavan says, let's look at life and your situations from this perspective of being a jiva, an individual. So even from your present perspective, where you take yourself to be this Arjuna, who is a Kshatriya, who is in this battlefield, who is facing his kith and kin, and is thinking of the past as well as of the future, and is unable to act in the present. Even from that perspective, where you are thinking of yourself to be this body, mind and intellect, then too, while you are functioning in this world, there is no reason, Arjuna, why you should grieve. Why should you say that? Because Bhagavan says that whatever is born, it is going to have death. It is going to, whatever comes into existence in this universe, right, as a name and form, it is going to perish one day. And that which perishes is certainly going to be reborn. Okay, that is the truth. So whatever is born is to perish, and that which perishes has no escape. That which perishes will also have to be reborn again, right? So therefore only Bhagavan says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mrutasya cha. This is in the 27th verse of the second chapter. Tasmad tasmad apariharyarthe natvam shojitum arhasi. Therefore Arjuna, any reason for you to grieve. Why? Because for the one who is born, for this broad body, as long as the prarabdha of that body is, as long as the lifespan of that body is as per karma, that body will go on. And when it is time up, then that body will perish, right? Then there is surely going to be death. But after that, what happens? The body has died. Not that subtle or that sukshma sharira will go on to be reborn again. When it's time to get a new body, it will come back in a new life, right? So therefore Bhagavan says in the chapter 6, in fact, when he continues on to this on this topic of punarjanma, Bhagavan says that one who understands this and one who takes to this path of spirituality, what happens for that person? Even if, while the person is progressing onto this path, even if that person meets an end of this body, while being a seeker, when this person, meets death, then too what is going to happen? Then that person's pursuit is never going to go waste at any time. That person will continue this pursuit in the next birth. In fact, Bhagavan gives, more extra browning points to this person, saying that, okay, this person had started on the right path, and therefore, when that person will be born again into a new body, he will get a human birth alone, and not just that, but will continue where he had or she had left off. Okay, that individual had left off during their spiritual pursuit, there onwards, that in the next birth they will continue. In fact, they will be born in such a family where it will be much more conducive for this person to pursue this truth or pursue this, path of moksha. So therefore, from the jiva perspective, from that individuality perspective too, Arjuna, there is no reason for you to ever grieve, right? Why? Because you have to understand the utility of this body. Utility of this body, when we say that body, mind, intellect, the sthula and sukshma sharira, it has its utility. It is an instrument. It is not that which is your inherent reality. That when you understand and when you are able to use this instrument in the right way, you will never lament on it. You will say, okay, just as, if you had a pen and while writing, if it broke, then, you will know that it is now time to replace it with a new one, right? You will not grieve over it, ki, oh, my pen, now what will I do? No. You will continue on, with whatever work you were doing with another instrument, right? So too, it is with the body. When we understand it in this manner, as Bhagavan is explaining, then there is no reason why one should grieve. So then you might want to know, okay, but then if we look at this, then how should I go about my lifetime now? So then if we understand this right, then one is to accept this reality that this body, mind, intellect is not me, but it is mine to use it, right? Then one is that, and the other is to understand what actually is me and what is the destination or what is the purpose of this existence and how should I meet it in the right way. So for me, what should become clear is what is my pursuit and how do I prioritize it, right? So how do I prioritize it? By not just being aware of my destination, but also taking into the right perspective the path of sadhana, swadhyaya and seva, which will help me, expedite or fast track this journey to my destination, right? So therefore, another, as though Bhagavan is trying to understand how exactly Arjuna is thinking, Bhagavan says, okay, even if you think that this is not, satisfactory to you, then another way of, going about this pursuit is to take to the path of swadharma. So when we say swadharma, what does it mean? It means that, for Arjuna, his swadharma was being a kshatriya, a warrior. And from a warrior's perspective, it was what? It was that his dharma has to be that of fighting for dharma. making sure that when the opportunity came to protect dharma, he has to take up the weapons in the right manner and do his best in the battlefield. So going away from the battlefield when he should be fighting is definitely amounting to adharma. And therefore Bhagavan tells him very clearly that now if you drop your weapons and you go, people are not going to leave you for ages to come. And especially if you get chirayu, right? For ages to come, what is going to happen? People are going to tarnish your personality wherever you go. Even if you go and sit on the Himalayas, thinking that, okay, I will take to the path of sannyas, I will leave this battlefield and go. Even if you go and sit on the Himalayas, people will come there, and then when they see you over there, they will say that, here is the one who left the battlefield and he brought just shame to our entire dynasty, our entire Kula itself went down because of him, right? So here Bhagwan, so when something is our duty, then going away from that duty doesn't bring any kind of merit to us. It will only bring demerit or papa to us, right? So therefore what is to be done? What is to be done is do the best in our duty. Know your duty, and rather than running away from that duty, do the best we can while we are at it, right? So no matter where we are, no matter which ashrama we are in, that which is our swadharma, that which is our duty, that must be done to the best, right? And what better than doing that which is my passion or that which is my swadharma than doing someone else's swadharma and bringing nothing but or rather doing what? When we take up someone else's duty and think that is our duty, what is going to happen? We are only going to postpone our journey. We are only going to bring a gap between our destination and us, right? And therefore Bhagavan says best is that you stick to your swadharma. And to make this even more beautiful or even more sweeter a prospect than making it a little bit boring for us or a little bit cumbersome for us, Bhagavan says best way to stick to your swadharma is to bring God into that equation. How so? Through karma yoga. One is that when you do karma, it is never going to be that the result of the karma will never come to you. Karma will come, that as in whatever action you have taken, the result of that action will definitely come to you. You are never going to escape from it. But if you want to make that prospect a little bit better for you and make it a win-win situation, then Bhagavan says do your karma, but do it in a God-centered way. And here is where Bhagavan talks about karma yoga. So when we say this, what is karma yoga going to do? It is not only going to bring into consideration what is selfless action as action, so that I start dropping off desires and do that which is in surrender to God, to do it in such a way that whatever I offer, it brings only joy to me. So not only bringing in detachment from the action itself, so too there is detachment from the results of the action. So here is where Bhagavan introduces Ishwararpan Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi, right? And also gives us various methods to go about this. So Bhagavan says bring devotion into play in all your actions. And what is going to be the result of this? The result of this is going to be, there will be purity in this instrument, which will help you progress towards that knowledge. So goal is moksha. Goal is self-abidance in that truth or that absolute reality which is my truth, right? So goal is that, and what is the means to it? The various sadhanas that I can take up, they become the means. So be it through japa, dhyana, be it through puja, be it through tirtha. So all of these are the sadhanas or the sadhans, the means. They are not the goal, they are only the means. So when this is clear to me, what is going to be clear to me? The benefit of doing these actions such that I will gain mileage towards my destination. So when we say this, then how do I know, or who is the ideal person who has actually lived and walked this path? So to understand that, or to give some indications of the one who has walked this path and gain that goal of life or purpose of life, Bhagwan gives the Sthita Prajna Vilakshanas in the chapter 2 again. And once we come towards the end of it, then Bhagwan also gives some indications as to what can cause some kind of obstacles on this path, or rather how the sense pleasures and how these sense pleasures can take my attention away from my goal, away from that knowledge, and bring me down the ladder of fall. So that ladder of fall is elaborated in the chapter 2 to give me clear indications of why the senses can become obstacles in my path, or how this mind can become my enemy onto this path if I am more Vishaya Sakta than that goal Sakta or Moksha Sakta, right? So how do I go about it? Then therefore in the next chapter Bhagwan elaborates on the Karma Yoga in the chapter 3, and then further he says, how should I go about doing my actions? What is going to be the merits of taking to this Karma Yoga, and how is what is Bhagwan's role in, or rather the role of devotion to Bhagwan or that surrender to Bhagwan in bringing about detachment between the action and also the result of the action. So how there will come about slowly but surely this purity of mind, or that chitta shuddhi which I require to progress onto this path, will come about through Karma Yoga. And therefore, Bhagwan says over there, Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. So that is in the 9th shloka. Bhagwan says what is the secret formula? One is to detach from karma, that is the action and the results of the action, and the other is to attach to Bhagwan, develop that devotion to Bhagwan, work in a God-centered manner, right? And then further in the chapter 4, Bhagwan talks about how the student Jnana karma sannyasa through 14 disciplines or 14 different yajnas, such as moderation in food, moderation in ahar vihar, right? And also pranayama, taking up the study of shastra, meditation, and so on. These comprise of the 14 yajnas which Bhagwan has prescribed to take up to the path of this Jnana Marga, right? So therefore here, who is the one who is going to be able to gain most, or have the maximum impact? One who is able to keep to this disciplined way of living, that person is going to go ahead onto the path. And then further in chapter 5 also, whatever doubts were there in Arjuna's mind, they are clarified through karma sannyasa. And then further in chapter 6 we understand what is the final part of this abidance, or a final part of moksha, that is the abidance in that truth. How do I go about it? And there Bhagavan elaborates in 4 different ways or 4 different techniques of going towards that final goal. So here, we have to, if we look at the journey of the seeker, like how we saw now, what is it? First, Arjuna starts with doubts. The seeker starts with the doubts, and then the 3 perspectives. One is from the perspective, the absolute perspective, or the perspective of consciousness. Then the other is from the jiva perspective. But I think of myself as this limited personality with this body, mind, intellect, which has limitations in birth and death, which has limitations in thinking, in learning, and so many other limitations, which I take to myself being this jiva, right? From that jiva perspective, looking at the world. And the third perspective is from the swadharma perspective, right? So what did we say? The 3 perspectives will help us see through any situation. What is it that we are trying to see through? We are trying to understand why at any given point there is no reason why we should worry, or why we should be anxious, or why we should cry. Na anushocanti panditaha. So how do we go about it? Then Bhagavan says, take to the path of karma yoga, attain purity, and live a God-centered life. And this will give what? This will give that desire, this will help me detach from most of the worldly desires and go towards that one desire of Bhagavan himself, right? And this will help me attain that purity of mind and understand that I am not this body, mind, intellect. I am that very pure consciousness itself. And further, in the chapter 6, Bhagavan elaborated on the techniques to attain abidance in this truth through Jnana Yoga. So Bhagavan, he said, what are the 4 techniques? The 4 techniques that we saw in the chapter 6, starts with, first one is changes in my lifestyle. Changes in my lifestyle, so that what? So that I become yoga rudha. Yoga rudha, to be able to be the master of my mind, to be the one who is in control of all situations, and make sure that this mind doesn't go towards the world but becomes very obedient and takes to that one goal of moksha. So how does one become a yoga rudha? And there are 3 methods that Bhagavan says. Bhagavan says, one whose mind doesn't run towards outer objects, any sense objects. Of course, the sense objects pull one through the senses. So one whose mind is completely detached, doesn't run after those objects of desire, that person is a yoga rudha. Then secondly, what? The one whose mind doesn't run towards any actions, one who is not restless and is able to be balanced. Doesn't matter what is happening in the world, will say that okay, fine, I need not get agitated, I need not get restless. It doesn't mean that I run away from my duties, but what it means is that where I need not go, I need not go. Where the mind need not get agitated and restless, it is able to stay balanced, right? And the third is the mind doesn't take to any kind of erroneous resolves, right? What is erroneous resolves? The thought that something outside of me is going to make me happy. That object, that person, that travel, that situation, that will make me happy. Otherwise, I am unhappy. This thought is what is erroneous thinking. Why? Because the truth is that I am happiness. I am that very source of happiness, and therefore there is nothing in this world which can actually give me happiness. I am that very source which brings happiness to all. Right? So, what is it? That erroneous notion is nothing but samyak kalpana in the bhavishya. Thinking that something outside of me is going to make me content. Thinking that something outside of me is going to bring a sense of completeness in me. Whereas what am I? I am that which is akhanda, purna. There is nothing which is missing in me. I am that which is that holistic wholeness. Okay, we might say. So, therefore, here Bhagavan had said, Yada hi nendriyartheshu na karmas shanusajjate. Therefore, the one who is yogaruda will never be agitated at any point of time. And there he says that sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogarudhas tadochyate. So it is karma yoga that should lead us to this point. Mind should not get drawn towards sense objects. Mind should not run helplessly after any kind of actions through fanciful imagination that something is going to make me happy. And such a person is what? Yoga Ruda means what? Such a person will be able to sit and meditate very quietly, calmly, without any kind of distractions, be they inner distractions or outer distractions. So, second step is what? Second step is outer preparation. This clean place, everything quiet and silent, and having, the right kind of seating, etc. And then there is also the inner preparation, where the mind is fixed in the strong resolve, that conviction that I am going to sit and abide in that truth which is me. So the determination to keep the world away and abide in myself is very clear to this person. And the third is the technique of meditation that Bhagavan talks of, where he highlights the withdrawal of the mind from the world to shift the attention of the mind to that consciousness alone, right? So my equipment here is what? Here is where the technique is, okay? So my equipment is this mind, and the only object of focus should be what? That object of focus should be my consciousness alone. There is no other choice for me. I am not going to hanker after anything. I am not going to crave anything. For me, there is no world. The consciousness alone is, and that consciousness is me, right? So the technique there is to empty the mind of whatever cravings, whatever desires, and shift the attention to that awareness which makes this experience possible, right? So nature of consciousness is what? Nature of consciousness is the source of my reality only, right? So this is what is the third aspect, that is the technique of meditation. And then further, Bhagavan explains what could be the possible obstacles that might come into the path of this meditator, right? And these are what? These are the doubts which Arjuna asks. And mainly his doubt is this mind is very chanchala. It will not be able to sit, like how you are talking of this abidance. It is not very easy. So what is the way out of this? And Bhagavan tells there are just two steps. One is abhyasa, repetition. Repetition of this practice of meditation over and over consistently. And second is vairagya. When he says vairagya, what does Bhagavan say over there? Bhagavan says Vairagya is not just detachment. Vairagya is having that conversation with your mind where you are asserting over and over that the fallacy is to give reality to the world, give reality to this ahankara. Drop the world and your battle is won. Where when you know that that consciousness or yourself alone is your truth. So where the mind is running towards the world, you have to pull it back. That is the trick of it, right? So more we practice being in this reality, the more we are able to be consistent in sitting in the seat of meditation, no matter how much the mind might tell us not to, the better we might get at it. Okay, so this we have to do when not just in the seat of meditation, but whenever we are able to free our mind of whatever other pulls of the life, then we should be able to sit and think on that reality which is our truth. And the last topic which Bhagavan of course takes in chapter 6 is Punarjanma. And there in that in the 47th verse, Bhagavan talks about this yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta mato matah yukta tamo matah. This is what Bhagavan says in the 47th verse, that among all the meditators who meditate, who take to this method of meditation, who is the best meditator? Bhagavan says the best meditator who is the one who focuses on me, who surrenders to me. Such a meditator is one who has understood me well, says Bhagavan. And he says, why has this person understood me well? Because this person's thinking, his way of outlook is not giving reality to this creation, but giving reality to that creator behind this creation. And there he says madgatena nantaratmana. So there he uses this word mad. So one might wonder, what does he mean when he says mad? One who is focused on me. When he's saying me, Bhagavan, what exactly do you mean? And this exactly Bhagavan thinks is what Arjuna might want to ask next. And before Arjuna can even ask the question, Bhagavan decides to answer his question through this chapter 7. So what is the question exactly? The question is, Bhagavan, fine, you are saying madgatena, but who is this Bhagavan? What is his nature? How do I surrender to him if I don't even know him? Right? So Bhagavan says, Arjuna, I will tell you who I am. I will tell you who exactly you should be worshipping, who exactly you should be surrendering to. So this is what is the seed for this chapter 7 that we are going to take up. So since we are starting with the chapter, we'll just chant the first verse and we will conclude this session. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Saptamodhyayah Jnana Vijnana Yoga Shri Bhagavan Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi Tatshrunu. So here in this first verse, Bhagavan not only answers Arjuna's question. He tells Arjuna, I know your doubt, I know what you are wanting to ask, but you are not yet putting it into words. So here let me answer that question for you, because you are very dear to me. And he tells him 3 qualities that, or he compliments him for 3 qualities which we will see in the next session. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Hari Om. Thank you.